He's a criminal's worst nightmare. A cop who enjoys the danger.
You really want to jump? Well, then that's fine with me. Come on.
Wait, what do you mean? Wait a minute. What the...
He was ready to retire. Now, he's gonna wish he had.
Ooh, a stainless Daytona.
It's just a fake.
You mean it's not real? Oh, I'm so tired of all these fakes.
But these guys can just stand each other.
What you got in there?
A Rolex Datejust.
A lot of old timers carry those.
The bad guys don't stand a chance.
What are we talking about today? Two legendary titans, a Rolex and a Grand Seiko.
Our tale of the tape for our main event of the evening. Here's the veteran voice of the Octagon, Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
What's your prediction for the fight then?
Prediction?
Yes, prediction.
Pain.
Hi everyone, today I'm drinking Verve Sermon. Cheers. So both Rolex and Grand Seiko are so highly sought after by watch fans, yet to the outside world, they're polar opposites. And what I mean by that is, to the outside world, Rolex is still an international rock star, but Grand Seiko is more like a garage band, making them the same, but different. For this comparison, we're talking the Rolex DJ at 36mm and the Grand Seiko SBGR097 at 42mm. Apart from the size difference, there are a lot of similarities between these two watches. The Rolex at 36mm actually wears on the larger size, whereas the GS at 42mm wears on the smaller size. Here you can see the lugs on the GS, how they aim downwards, giving it a smaller appearance, versus the Rolex lugs, how they're longer, taking up more real estate on your wrist, giving it the larger appearance. In terms of aesthetics, you can clearly tell that the GS's bracelet was influenced by Rolex's Oyster bracelet. But there's even though the GS has been influenced by the Oyster bracelet, the difference that you're not going to be able to tell necessarily here on camera or in pictures probably is I can't explain the way that the GS, the finishing feels. It's a lot more silkier than on the Oyster's brushed finish. Brushing finishing versus brushing finishing, it just has a certain a silkier texture to it. So the DJ movement is a 31-35, and it's minus 2 seconds plus 2 seconds a day, and I'm getting plus 8 seconds off the wrist and plus 4 seconds while I'm wearing it. As far as the power reserve, it's 48 hours. I'm still getting about 48.5 hours versus the GS. And the DJ actually, I've had it since 2004. So for 13 years, I haven't had it serviced, and it's running perfectly without any problems. And the power reserve on the DJ is 48 hours, and I'm still getting about 48.5 hours versus the GS where it's 72 hours, and I'm still getting around 76 hours. So both of the power reserves are outstanding and just so reliable and dependable. The movement on a GS is an exhibition case back, as you can see. The nice Genève striping. It's just a beautiful movement. Versus the Rolex, as we all know, it's a solid case back. I would actually really like it if Rolex for the DJ made an exhibition case back. So now that we got the fact sheet on both the Rolex and the GS out of the way, I want to make an editorial on both these watches. Now Rolex comes with preconceptions, most of them not positive. You know, for a lot of different reasons. Unless you're a Rolex owner, you're not going to hear a lot of positive feedback from the naysayers. And I think one of the reasons is because it's not a cheap watch even to get pre-owned. We're talking on a DJ, a pre-owned one is realistically about $4,000. That's a lot of money for a watch, and more for Submariner or an Explorer. But just on a DJ, which is about $4,000, if I'm a naysayer, I'm thinking I can get a brand new Bremont, I can get a brand new Carl Bucherer, I can get a brand new Omega moon watch with a slight crystal for the same price. All of those are about $5,000, but you know, with 25% is an easy discount to get. So if I'm thinking that way, I'm thinking I'm getting a $5,000 watch, a brand new watch for the same price as a pre-owned Rolex DJ. Why would I do that? I think that's a lot of justification or justifying for that person. And I'm willing to bet that if that was a brand new Rolex versus those other brands that I mentioned, or those other brands were also pre-owned, same as a pre-owned Rolex, I'm pretty sure the person in that market would go with a Rolex. But the price on a Rolex is a bit off-putting, and it makes it an easy target for a lot of haters. Both the Rolex and the GS has the richest histories of almost any other watch that I can think of. To me, personally, the GS has a more unique history. There are so many stories and so much rich history to the GS. But one of my favorites is the Neuchâtel Chronometer Testing competition, where GS entered in, I think it was the early 60s, 1964, I believe. And they came in like 140 some place. They were near the bottom. But by 1967, they climbed up to the top 10. And the chronometer testing is for accuracy. Now, a lot of people think that by the upcoming year of 1968, that GS was ready to take the #1 spot for the Neuchâtel chronometer testing. And, you know, mysteriously, the Neuchâtel chronometer competition was abruptly abandoned. And that's open for speculation as to the reason why. I tend to believe it's because they didn't want to give the high honor of the most accurate watch to a non-Swiss branded watch. And that's just one of the obstacles that Seiko had to overcome to be where they are today. There are so many rich stories that you have to root for Seiko. But the perceptions of wearing a Grand Seiko is entirely different. So when I wear my Rolex, I do notice, and I can feel the looks. I can feel the casual observances of or observations of the watch, and then it's not always followed by comments. Just they know what it is and they recognize it, and there's respect. So for example, if I'm in a higher end store, for example, and I'm wearing my Rolex, the feeling by the casual observer is, okay, I have a Rolex on. I deserve to be there. I can afford to shop there. Versus worth the GS, you know what? The GS, I still get a lot of casual observations, but it's different than when I wear my Rolex. The stairs on the Grand Seiko are actually longer than the Rolex. If I'm wearing my Rolex DJ, the stare it's quick because they recognize the Rolex. But when I'm wearing my GS, the stairs are actually longer. And it's not because of what you might think. It's not because, oh, they're loving the GS a lot more. It's because they're trying to figure this watch out. This watch, on its sheer looks, on its sheer beauty, is eye-catching. From the dial color to the finishing, it's an eye-catching watch. Anyone's going to look at it, they're going to notice it. Excuse me. But the reason that their gaze is held longer is because they're looking at it and they're recognizing that it's a Seiko, and that is very surprising to a lot of people. How can a really good-looking timepiece like this be a Seiko? Now they're looking at the top, where all of our eyes are automatically go to and are adjusted to the top, where the Seiko is. It doesn't say Grand Seiko; it says Seiko, and nobody goes from here to the bottom here where it says Grand Seiko. That's just not the way our eyes are trained. We look at the top where, for example, it says Rolex. Nobody continues to look at it as the Oyster Perpetual or Submariner. It's always here at the top. Now, this is a problem that some people think is a problem with Grand Seiko, is that they prefer to have Grand Seiko on the top and maybe Seiko at the bottom. For me, the Seiko branding is in its appropriate place at the top. Because Grand Seiko is a Seiko. It would be, for example, like the Rolex Cellini. It doesn't say Cellini at the top, it says Rolex, and then here it says it's a Cellini because it's a Rolex. So the placement for this is appropriate to me. So to me, there are two types of watch owners between a Rolex and a Grand Seiko. To me, a Rolex is someone who really appreciates the history and the durability and, of course, the name recognition of a Rolex. Someone who's worked hard, saved a lot of money for their first luxurious timepiece, and they want to go with something where their money is well spent, and that is a Rolex. There are some people that might be a little bit shallow and buy it simply for its name. There's no questioning that part of it. But a Grand Seiko owner is someone that is a very secure person, is secure in himself, very confident person, and the kind of person that says, I don't give a heck what anyone else thinks. I spent a lot of money on this watch, yes, and it doesn't matter what you think, if you think it's a Seiko, because I know what it is, and it's my secret, because I know that the watch that I'm wearing is most likely, well, it's going to be as good as yours and probably better than yours. So that's the owner of a Grand Seiko, and that is kind of my attitude when I wear the Grand Seiko. Now, when I'm shopping and I do notice, for example, if I'm wearing, decent clothes and I'm wearing this Grand Seiko, I've noticed people look at it and then size me up and down. Maybe I'm dressed pretty decently, but why am I wearing a Seiko? And I think one of the next perceptions is, oh, maybe his Gucci loafers aren't really Gucci. Maybe they're fake. I don't wear Gucci loafers. I'm just using that as an example. The perception is different, and it changes when someone who is well dressed is seen as a Grand Seiko by the casual observer. So you have to be a really strong and confident person if you're wearing a Grand Seiko, because it's not going to get the same attention as a Rolex owner. Now, the video I did earlier to see what kind of results and conversations I would get out of my Grand Seiko, well, that was in a controlled setting. That was in a cigar lounge by people I know, which are watch fans. So I knew that great conversation and recognition was inevitable. But in the outside world, that same recognition and same conversations are non-existent. And those are the kind of stares and the longer gazes that I've experienced with my GS. And, I kind of like that. I kind of like them trying to figure out this watch and trying to figure out why is such a good-looking, nice-looking watch, how can that only be a Seiko? But it's actually my little secret, or whoever owns a Grand Seiko, it's your little secret as well. It's like being in a secret club that the person who is more familiar with Rolex, Omega, or Breitling, they're not going to know Grand Seiko. I think that's going to change in the next few years because Grand Seiko's U.S. presence is increasing. They've got a boutique in Miami and in New York on Madison Avenue, where all the big boys are. So the exposure and the U.S. presence of great Grand Seikos are going to increase in the future, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of perceptions are going to come from a heavier U.S. presence. So if someone was to ask me if I could only have one, if I could only choose one between the Rolex or the GS, because I am very fortunate that I have them both. The Rolex was given to me by my father, and the GS is where I bought that for myself. The best way for me to answer which one, if I could only choose one to keep, is I would be happy with either one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you the next time. Oh, I forgot to share with you guys, I had a little bit of car trouble, but I just got a text saying that my car is all ready and finally to be picked up. I'm so excited. Let's go check it out.